Most people, when they hear the term preparedness, associate it with a fringe behavior or events that have a low probability, and therefore the preparedness behavior is unwarranted. For example, they'll associate those who think about preparing with food or stockpiling provisions with waiting for the zombie apocalypse. Most people in their day-to-day lives do have some concept and some behavior around preparedness. For example, do you leave home most of the time and not consider, do you have enough fuel in your car to get from home to where you want to go and come back? When you take off for a trip, do you think about how long it will take? What food you will need? Will you need water? Do you have money on the way if you don't carry food with you? Do you have enough fuel in your vehicle? Those kind of things are indications that we really do on a day-to-day basis think in terms of preparedness. However, something happens when we talk about being prepared for our own safety and our own well-being. I hate to bring up Katrina. It was a tragedy, but it wasn't something that someone planned. We could say lack of planning caused it. But we learned a lot. I think we should have learned a lot. One is that it took 2 weeks for a significant critical mass of support to reach New Orleans. 2 weeks. We all saw the news footage of what happened to people who were stuck in that Coliseum. We know what happened on the bridge as people tried to escape or evacuate into a neighboring county which was just across a bridge. We know what happened to people who were unable to leave their homes. We also understand that the rich were able to get away and the poor could not. People who live in natural disaster prone areas of this country where it suffers tornado or earthquake or flood on a recurring basis, those people tend to have this concept of being prepared. In some cases, being prepared to hunker down, that is, go into some kind of shelter because a tornado warning has been announced, or have what you need to evacuate the area if you are given enough warning. The same is true for places in California, for example, that have fire or mudslide. I really have no idea what it's like to be in Australia during fire season, but what I see on the news, not necessarily a place I would want to be. I wonder how they prepare. In each of these cases, the idea is to be prepared for a threat to one's safety or the safety of one's family or friends or neighbors. And there are many different threats. This is not a paranoid type thought, but the fact is, shit happens. Some have increasing probabilities versus others, depending on where one lives or what one does. There is a mathematical probability that lightning could strike someone under certain circumstances. Does that mean that we should be prepared to be struck by lightning? Probably not. What it does mean is that we should probably avoid circumstances where you might be struck by lightning, like if you're out in a public space and it's raining and a thunderstorm is within 5 nautical miles, that's really the deal. You probably want to go indoors. You don't want to be under a tree trying to stay dry. You want to get out of there. You don't want to be in a boat on the water, especially an open boat. You see what I'm saying? There are certain things that we should consider just as being responsible people. That's an important idea. Responsibility. The responsibility for your safety and mine belongs with us. To think that magically or somehow someone else should come to your rescue and therefore you should depend on that is just plain stupid. It's nuts. That means we should be more aware of those things around us in the location where we are. That tells us what kinds of things should we consider being prepared for. For example, how many of you have one of these? Anywhere. In your home, in your car, in your RV. If it's even at your workplace, do you even know where it is? And if you do, how would you use it? I know what you're thinking. Someone is going to pull the fire alarm and the firefighters are going to show up. I don't know about you, but if there's a fire right there, I want to be able to deal with it. That's why in our home, we have a fire extinguisher in the kitchen, in the garage, and in each car. Now that doesn't mean that necessarily we'll need to use it in our home or in our car, but how many times have you seen a vehicle on the side of the road and the smoke is coming up and you might be able to render assistance? That's being prepared. In this case, it's for fire for you. How many of you know that fire drills are still performed in schools and public schools? How many of you know that the last time there was a fire where children were killed was in 1970? And that was because the physical building was structured so that nobody could escape. But we still do fire drills. When I was in elementary school, we had the drop drill. And you know what the drop drill was for, right? Well, probably not, because you're probably a baby right now. The drop drill was what one should do, what the kids should do in the case of a nuclear attack. Yeah. Drop, get under your desk, put your hands over your head, and what? And I remember asking my teacher, and this is a good preparedness story, I remember asking my teacher, the bombs today are greater than the bombs that were dropped in Japan. Wouldn't we just be incinerated instantly? What is this drop thing for? The answer was, because I have to teach you to do something. We cannot do nothing. Okay, so that was stupid preparedness, because there was zero one could do to protect children or anyone else if you were hit by a nuclear attack. It was just a way to mind screw people to get them to feel that they are prepared. How many of you are trained in first aid? Now there's more in this bag than first aid stuff, but this goes with me everywhere. Why? Something could happen to me and I have stuff in that bag that if I'm unconscious, someone could use it to help me out. Yeah. Or, which has happened several times, I come across a situation where I can render first aid to someone who's in need. So I am prepared to help myself and others in a life-threatening situation. Doesn't that make sense? In some cases, providing first aid, it makes the difference between that victim living or not, because it buys time until the EMT crew can show up and then stabilize or try to stabilize and then transport that person to a hospital. In the area where I live, there is a lot of backcountry. People get hurt. People get hurt just doing normal recreational things. And it's not easy for EMT to get to where they are. But if you happen to be there, you can help stabilize that person. You can make them comfortable. You can try to make sure that they're still alive when EMT services arrive. How many of you have cell phones? How many of you have other electronic devices that could be used to communicate or give you information? When was the last time you checked the batteries, and or what is your strategy for making sure that you never leave home without a fully charged tool? What's your strategy for defending yourself, or in the case of a violent crime threat, what's your preparedness strategy for that? Do you wait? Do you call 911? You could. Actually, you still should call 911. However, when seconds matter, the police are just minutes away.